I'm Kelly.
Standing in the middle of my vineyard now, looking at the lush grapevines, all I can think about is that fateful day 6 months ago. The day my sister, Lily, thought she could steal my life right out from under me. It was a Friday afternoon, and I was in the North Vineyard, knee-deep in mud, desperately trying to save my precious Merlot grapes from an early frost. I'd canceled a crucial business trip to Paris at the last minute because of the weather forecast. An unusual cold front was on its way, and if I didn't act fast, my entire $1 million harvest would be destroyed. I was covered in heavy waterproof coveralls, rubber boots up to my knees, and a wool cap pulled down over my ears. As I directed the crew to set up wind machines and irrigation sprinklers, I heard the engines. At first, I thought it was a lost delivery truck. But when I looked up, I saw a convoy of luxury limousines making their way up the long driveway towards the main villa. My estate was supposed to be empty during my absence. The tasting room was closed for cleaning, and the event staff had the week off. Confusion quickly turned to alarm as I realized someone was throwing a party in my house. I approached the villa from the side, staying low behind the hedge. When I reached the stone terrace overlooking the valley, I saw them. The terrace was filled with about 40 guests, all dressed in fancy cocktail attire, sipping champagne. And there, in the center, wearing a white designer gown that probably cost more than my monthly payroll, was my sister, Lily. She was 25, 10 years younger than me. While I was practical and hard working, she was charming and manipulative. She'd spent years hopping from one failed acting gig to chasing rich boyfriends. Our parents, who were always overly indulgent and lenient towards her, had always favored her over me. The last time we'd spoken, she'd asked me for a loan to pay off her credit card debt. I'd refused, and she'd called me heartless. Now, as I stood there, covered in mud, a champagne cork hit me in the shoulder. Lily looked at me and said, "Don't worry about the gardener. She's just a hired hand we keep around out of pity." Her new boyfriend's mother, Mrs. Thompson, a wealthy and haughty woman in her 60s, looked at me with disdain. Lily continued, "She's the hired manager, but she's greedy and difficult. It's best to avoid her." Rage boiled inside me, but I held back. I knew if I confronted her then, she'd find a way to twist the situation. So, I stayed silent and walked towards the staff entrance. I was determined to find out how she'd managed to pull this off and make her pay. I went to my office and found Sarah, a 22-year-old new hire fresh out of hospitality school. She showed me an email she'd received, seemingly from me, approving the party. But it was a fake. The email address was just one letter off from mine. It was clear Lily had committed wire fraud, creating a fake identity to misappropriate my property. I then calculated the total cost of the party from the service request forms Sarah showed me. It was a staggering $85,400, including expensive food, floral arrangements, a string quartet, and worst of all, permission for guests to drink from my vintage wine cellar, where I kept some of the most valuable bottles passed down from my grandfather. I decided to gather irrefutable proof of her crime. I locked down all exits with the help of Frank, our 55-year-old head of security who'd been with my family for 15 years. We watched the party unfold on the security monitors. Lily was telling everyone that the estate had been in her family for generations and that I was just a hired hand. She even discussed selling a stake in the property to Mrs. Thompson for $3 million. I waited patiently for her to cross the line. When a waiter opened a $5,000 bottle of 1998 Cabernet and served it to Lily, her boyfriend, and his parents, I knew the time had come. I walked into the main ballroom, my muddy boots thudding against the polished marble floor. I grabbed the open wine bottle from their table and announced that there was no release order for it. I listed all of Lily's crimes: wire fraud, criminal trespass, and grand larceny. I demanded that she pay the $85,400 bill on the spot or face arrest. She tried to use her credit card, but the transaction was declined. She then turned to our mother for help, but her card also didn't have enough credit. Mrs. Thompson, seeing the situation, pulled out a black Centurion card with no spending limit. She paid the bill, not for Lily but to buy silence. She told Lily that her lawyer would come the next morning, and Lily had to sign all the documents without question. The wedding would go on, but Lily would be strictly managed from then on. I decided not to press charges. I didn't need Lily in handcuffs. I just wanted her to face the consequences. And by the look on her face, seeing her future mother-in-law take control, I knew I'd succeeded. I also permanently banned my parents from the estate. They'd always enabled Lily's bad behavior, and it was time for them to face the fact that their actions had consequences. 6 months have passed since then. The harvest is looking great, and my vineyard is thriving. Lily got her dream wedding and a wealthy husband, but she's now under the strict thumb of Mrs. Thompson. My mother still thinks I was too harsh, but looking at my successful business and the peace I've found, I know I made the right decision. So, I want to ask you all, did I go too far? Or was it the only way to make her realize the error of her ways?